Welcome to 2023. I am Keita Williams. I am the founder and chief strategist of Successfully. We're an elite accountability practice, and so I am a business coach for coaches. I'm a business coach for coaches, and I want to help you double your revenue and quadruple your impact. So if that sounds like you, I want you to raise your hand in the comments. I want you to reach out to our team because this year my goal is to support at least 100 coaches in scaling their businesses. And so if you're ready to scale, raise your hand. Which is a great segue into our theme for the rest of the month, as well as what we're going to touch on today. Okay. So, our theme for the rest of the month is just around the idea of growing pains and business gains. And so, most of you in this community have already started your coaching practice. You may have a few paid clients. You may be really thinking about next steps if you're building your coaching business while you're working full time. Can you scale it so that you can leave your full time job? If you're full time in your business, how can you maximize the offers that you have? If you've kind of been in practice for a little while and you're ready to take it to that next level, these are some great questions to ask yourself. And so we're talking about like the growing pains that at each level in your business, you got to stretch yourself. It may be uncomfortable because it's uncharted territory. Today, I really want to focus on what you need to ask yourself to see if you're ready to scale. Are you ready to scale? Are you ready for that next step? And now, when I say scale doesn't necessarily mean you are building a unicorn as if it's a tech startup, right? It may mean that it's multi six figures. It may mean it's multiple coaches under your umbrella. It may mean you have multiple service offerings, right? And scale is how you want to define it. When I think of scale, it is that on ramp to your end goal, right? Scale is the difference between where you are and where you want to be in your business. So scaling is that process to get to your big, hairy, audacious goal, right? And so here are some things that I wish that somebody would have ran past me before I set off on my scale journey. Okay, before we do that, can we just discuss? I tried something new with my makeup and I kind of like it. Got new lipstick, new eyeshadow. I'm really liking this new look. Lucille, what say you? Do you like the eyeshadow and the lip? Thoughts? Thoughts? You see yourself in the camera and you're like, that works. But let's talk about scale. So my first point that I want to make with, are you ready to scale? Are you ready to scale your coaching practice? Thank you, Lucille. You're always my favorite cheerleader. The first thing I want you to ask yourself is, what is your ultimate business goal? What's your ultimate business goal? Right? So like, what my ultimate business goal is different from your ultimate business goal, right? And so my version of scale is going to look very different from your version of scale, right? So first, we have to acknowledge that it's not one size fits all. Right? It's not one size fits all. Like for me, I could care less if we have private jets. I could really care less about that kind of stuff. I care more about impact at this point in my life and legacy, impact and legacy. And if that brings us a private jet, so be it. But that's not what I'm chasing. Right? That's not my ultimate goal. And so first, let's acknowledge that it's not one size fits all. So what does scale look like for you? What is your ultimate business goal? When you blow the top off of it, when you have gotten to your mount at the summit of Mount Everest, what does that look like for you? Right? And I can't decide that for you. You have to make that decision for yourself, because it's okay to have a boutique brand. It's okay to do 100 150K in revenue every year. That's okay. If it works for you, if you like it, I love it. So first, it's not a one size fits all. You have to decide what your end goal, what your big vision looks like. And I can't do that for you. No coach can do that for you. You have to really think through, where do I want to take this? Right? So first thing, it's not one size fits all. And second thing I would suggest, before you go down the pathway of of taking on a big endeavor to scale is, you know, demand. Demand. And so are you in demand? Have you already sold out your one-on-one practice? Have you already sold out your one-on-one roster? Are you close to selling out? Because that's proof of concept, right? You know, even with the market, you know, there are the according to ICF, the most popular forms of coaching based on their survey that they took, I believe it was in 2021, is business coaching, executive coaching, and life coaching. Right. So that's the three big buckets there. Are you aligning with the in demand area? And I think that even in those buckets, there's a lot of niches. So I want you to really consider, do you have a demand? And the way that you demand is proof of, show that you have a demand is proof of concept. Have you sold all the if your one-on-one roster is an airplane, have you sold all the seats on the plane? Right? Because I think that oftentimes we introduce groups and online courses and downloads and, you know, communities and all these things too soon. So now we have split our efforts and we have to split our efforts. We split our resources. We may have a team that we're not ready for. You know, so like I want you to sell out all the seats. Are you near selling out all the seats on your airplane? And it doesn't have to be a 747. It can be a private jet. It can be a you know, smaller aircraft. But are you close to being at your capacity as a one-on-one coach? So that's how you see if there's a demand for your service. If you're struggling, if you're struggling to fill up the seats that you have in a one-to-one, you're more than likely going to struggle to fill your group coaching too. There's no demand for it, or it's not packaged correctly. Maybe you're not hitting the pain points that people need support on, right? Maybe you're just not there. Maybe you got to rework some things. So have you shown a demand for your service? And until you are at near sellout, I don't want you launching anything else, right? Because now I want you to focus on what works and duplicate what works. The second thing I want to ask you, and I wish that I would have taken more into consideration, that at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, do you have the resources to scale? Do you have the resources? And what I mean by resources, I mean cash money, time, mentorship, team. Do you have people, money, time, um, and mentorship to scale it? Right? And most of these things are going to require that it requires an investment on your part. So whether you have the cash to buy the ads and design the things and the landing pages and all of that, whether you bring on a business coach to help you with that, they're going to require some form of sacrifice. Now, you know, it's a you can decide where you're going to get these resources from. Are you going to reinvest, you know, whatever the business is brought in? Are you going to reinvest that into scaling the business? Are you going to reinvest? Are you going to, you know, look for some grant money? Are you going to take out a business loan? Are you going to, you know, dip into your personal savings to make these investments? You have to be well resourced for this, because even if you didn't buy a single ad, even if you didn't hire a single team member, at a certain point, you need more software. There's software that you need to scale a coaching practice. There's just technical background things that you're going to need. And so I want you to really think through, do you have the resources and do you have a number in mind to invest in your business, right? Now, you know, y'all can fight me on this, whatever, but like it gets uncomfortable. There is some iteration and testing that needs to happen. So you know what worked for you before you started scaling may not work at scale, right? What worked to get 20 people in the door may not work to get 50 people in the door. And so there's some testing, and you have to have um, the spending capacity to get through that testing and iteration, or turning the open sign on for this new offer and hearing crickets, right? The other thing that you have to really think through is systems and processes. Like, you can't fly by the seat of your pants when you have a team. You can't fly by the seat of your pants when you have multiple coaching offerings and they're sold out. You can't fly by the seat of your pants when you have new clients starting week over week, right? And you can't fly by the seat of your pants when you have to outsource pieces, when you have a team around you, when you have deliverables for each of one of your clients. You don't, you don't, you don't play as you don't play as you go along. You actually have to document things. You have to have a process in place so that if someone leaves, they don't take the business with them. Having processes and systems, even they can be refined. And when you're a one person show, one woman show, it tends to live in your head. Everything, though, you have your way of doing things. I kind of liken it to my grandmother's cornbread. There was no recipe. It all was in her head, right? And if I wanted to master that cornbread, I needed to be right next to grandma while she made it. Okay? So when you're a one woman show, it tends to like live in your head as opposed to being documented with a process. Like, this is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So if you're thinking of bringing on more people, if you're thinking on more clients, team, all of that, you have to have these processes in place. If you ever want to have a vacation while you're scaling, the business has to run without you, right? You can't be the bottleneck anymore. And you have to start thinking less like a business owner and more like a CEO, right? There's a point where you shift from an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, to an entrepreneur, to a business owner, to a CEO. Right? And scale is where your title changes from business owner to CEO. Okay? The other thing I want you to consider is just market conditions, right? So there's a demand for your service, right? But the world has changed in the last few months. We're seeing the heavy hitters, Fortune 5 companies doing big layoffs, right? And so we just have to be mindful of what's going on in the world, and do the things that are happening in the economy, the things that are happening with just shifts in corporate spending. So if you have a B2B offer with corporate spending shifting, is now the right time to scale, or is like, really look at the world around you, lift your head up from your business and understand what's going on in the bigger global economy and what's going on in industry trends within your space, right? If you coach a bunch of accountants, launching something in January is a terrible idea. This is prime time for them until April. Right? They're barely coming up for air till April. And so the market conditions, trends, what's happening in your industry, really making sure that you have your head wrapped around that, because maybe it's waiting until the pendulum shifts a little bit. Because like, whenever there's big cuts in budgets, it always course corrects. Whenever it swings this way, it always swings that way, right? So sometimes you just got to catch it right here so that you're on the up and up when it's on the up and up. And so just being well aware of what's going on in the world, right? And then finally, I would say personal readiness. Scaling has tested my fortitude more than when I was first starting the business. Scale has been way more emotionally taxing and frustrating than when I first started the business and was trying to figure it all out. Scaling has been growth, and kind of like when you're going through a pruning season in your personal life where you're being refined and you're being prepped for growth It hurts. It can hurt. It also can be delightful. And there's a lot, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of triumph in it. And there's a lot of validation. And there's so much personal growth when you're scaling your business and you're turning into a leader leading your own vision, right? Not something someone gave you to execute on. You're leading your own vision. It's transformative. I am a better person from this process, right? It's not for the faint of heart. It has been some joy, but it also has been some discomfort. There have been things that I've learned about myself. There have been things that, you know, I am not, while I may be assertive, I'm non confrontational. I will assert my ideas, but I'm not going to push in a way that's going to cause an argument or that I could foresee being an argument. And so with that, when you have a team, you sometimes you got to confront some hard stuff like, you didn't do your work, or that thing I told you to schedule, it did not get scheduled. What's going on? Or being able to let people go when it's time. Because if you're a leader, eventually you're going to have to fire somebody, right? Um, or how do you empower and grow a team? How do you mentor and nurture and coach without getting too attached to people? Because they're not going to stay with you forever and ever, right? And so there's been so many learnings. So it's not for the faint of heart. So I want you to check in with yourself and ask yourself, are you ready for new demands? Are you ready to make tough decisions? Are you ready to fall on your face and get back up? Are you ready to weather testing and iterating and message tweaking, changing your marketing? Are you ready? Are you ready to throw away everything you thought you knew to learn a better way of doing it or a different way of doing it? Are you mentally, spiritually, physically ready for new demands? Now, I'm not saying I don't work more now that we're in growth mode, we're scaling. I actually work less. Um, but the work is different. The work is different, right? The work is different. And so, are you ready to grow and push yourself and challenge yourself to think differently? There's a mindset set shift that needs to happen too. So, are you ready for those things? Are you ready? So, just to recap, this not to kind of check in with yourself, especially like we're at the start of the year. How big and how fast do you want to go this year, right? Are you ready? Are you ready to scale? So it's not a one size fits all. It really depends on your personal goal. Do you already have demand for your service? Are you near selling out your one-on-one roster? Have you filled up all the seats on your plane? Do you have the resources? Are you ready to make the financial commitment, the time commitment, the learning commitment to scale? Are you ready to make are you well resourced with that? Are you ready to kind of make some sacrifices to get it done? Do you have systems and processes in place? Is everything well documented? Do you have a formula? McDonald's can be run by a bunch of teenagers because they got a binder for everything. There's a binder on the fries, there's a binder on the burgers. Everything has a process, right? And so, do you have your own processes and systems in place? Again, looking at the market conditions, is now the right time? If you're, are you in a space that's still healthy, or is it adversely impacted by the economic downturn? And then lastly, your personal readiness. Are you mentally, spiritually, physically, financially ready to do something different? Are you ready to think differently? Are you ready to behave differently? Are you ready to step out of your comfort zone? Each level of your business requires personal growth. So yeah, so if you are wondering what's the next step, in terms of you feel like you're ready to scale and you're wondering what the next steps should be, or you have a few of these pieces are missing and you need some support, I can't leave this live stream without sharing an opportunity. An opportunity. I have made space on my calendar the next couple weeks because, again, I know my big goal this year is to support 100 coaches and consultants in scaling their businesses. And so, if this sounds like you, if you think you're ready to scale, you got a couple, you got most of these things in place, but you need a little more insight on those next steps. Like, what's the next logical step? Book a strategy session with me. And you can book that at successbully.com/call, or you can reach out to Lucille, who's our concierge in the group. And again, I'm Keita Williams. I'm the founder and chief strategist of Success Bully. I am incredibly grateful and happy to be here with you. I am blessed that I get to do what I love every day. And it's no coincidence, right? Took a lot of work to get to this point, but I am so grateful that I get to um, do what I'm passionate about, that I get to serve, that I get to help, and most importantly, I'm really excited to celebrate with each one of you. So raise your hand if you need support, and I look forward to chatting with y'all next week.